There are YouTube content creators that have earned the title of Black YouTube. Among this content, you can find discussions ranging from community issues, finance, and romance. Many of them are panel discussions with open forums and live streams that can go on for more than 10 hours sometimes, which is quite extreme, but perhaps the goal is to keep the discussions going because you never know who will drop in or who will make a point worth clipping. But overall, from what I gather, most of the content appears to be focused on the upward mobility of the so-called Black community. But never have I ever seen Black YouTube in a state of division as I am witnessing as of late. A division caused by circumstances surrounding a non-Black content creator, which is not without its own sense of irony. This content creator, Just Pearly Things.
Hey, how you doing today, ladies? It's Just Pearly Things.
No, that's not Pearl.
Sounds similar to the slavery stuff too, because that's literally the founder of, or the guy who made Root said, I wanted a myth for my people to live by. So they often, but that's what they do, is they embellish, and I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible, it was,
right,
but they want to make it like more horrible so that they can control people.
This is Pearl. Now, I touched on the issue briefly in a previous video, and in that address, you can clearly see that not every Black YouTuber was in agreement as to the way that it should have been handled. But now the situation has reached a fever pitch, where it appears as though there is a separating of the wheat from the chaff, so to speak.
Is that not holding her accountable? And if it's not, what does it mean to hold some rando person accountable on the internet?
Take away Black viewership. Make her understand that when someone comes in here and disrespect us like the Jews, we gonna take away her passport like they did Nick Fuentes.
Now, who is the wheat and who is the chaff? It's not for me to decide, but just know that there is a dividing narrative taking place in these spaces. On one side, you have creators saying, stay on code. And on the other, you have creators saying, what code?
Let's get straight into it, ladies and gentlemen. I got some phone calls over the weekend from different people telling me to stay on code. What does that mean, to stay on code? Stay on code with who? I don't understand that whole stay on code thing. Stay on code is just a wild concept to me. Because what does being on code mean? I've seen some of the people that's the closest to me betray me. Several different people betrayed me this weekend. It's wild. Was they on code? I see people getting divorced and then throwing their former spouse under the bus every single day. Are they on code? I see people that was supposed to have your back and then go and mention your name and talk negatively about you on other platforms. Are they on code? Y'all make up terms and definitions according to whatever suits whatever it is that you got going on at the time. You know where my code lies? The same place that it's always been. Rocking with people that roll with me. If I know you in real life and I have your phone number and I've actually linked up with you as far as had you in my city, I think that that's a completely different conversation.
Now, this is Anton Daniels, a content creator on YouTube who makes content that appears to be geared toward upward mobility and personal finance. Now, I don't know him personally. However, I have had the experience of appearing on his show once upon a time. I spent most of the time just listening, and from what I gathered in that exchange, Anton Daniels was a very opinionated man that exhibited a difficulty or an unwillingness to empathize with alternative points of view that didn't gel well with his own. So in other words, very disagreeable, which is also a behavioral trait that is often attributed to those who manage to find success. So that's not a negative nor a positive. It's just what I observed while listening. Now, that being said, he asks a very interesting question here. and I'm not sure if there's one right answer. I have my opinions, but so does everyone else, and mine is no more valid than the next person. But who can answer his question? And who has the right answer? And if you have the right answer, what makes that the right answer as opposed to the one that he has come up with for himself? I can say what I think the answer is, but more important than knowing what the answer is, I think I have a good idea what the answer is not.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you've met my daughter and, you know, you've been to my home, I can't ever mention your name or throw smut on your name in a negative way. I don't care what you do to me. Now, that's what my code is. And maybe it's just the city that I'm from. I got a different kind of code. You know what I'm saying? My code is a little bit different. Let me also give you another code. My code and my loyalty also lies with my wife. I've seen people say negative things and throw smut on my wife's name. And she ain't never did nothing to nobody. You know what they look like? They was from the black community. You know what people told me? Oh man, ignore it. It's for a bigger purpose. I said, so wait a minute. You telling me that the black community, you know, the ones that killed Malcolm X, you know, those people. You know, the ones that was talking negatively and throwing smut on Martin Luther King's name before he died? Yeah, most black people didn't like Martin Luther King before he died. Now he got a holiday in his name. You know, those type of people. You know, the same black people that voted for Obama, even though he didn't champion none of y'all causes and y'all still holding him down? Yeah, those type of black people.
Now, it is worth noting that much of his reasoning appears to be rooted on a logical fallacy known as tu quo que. Tu quo que translates to you too. And the gist of tu quo que is when someone defends a perceived error by pointing out a perceived error. So in other words, I don't need to lose weight because you have a beer belly. Now, he has every right to his point of view, and whether it is right or wrong is for you to decide for yourself. I'm just making note of the logical fallacy that he uses to support his ideology. It wasn't the black community that killed Malcolm X any more than it was the white community that killed Mike Brown. He could have easily cited instances where black people were successful in working together, and since he went as far back as the 60s to use Malcolm X's death in his reasoning, he could have just as easily mentioned the Montgomery bus boycott, where change was made by the cohesion of a collective. And I'm willing to bet that most of them did not know each other, and were probably only bound by the principles of 6 degrees to separation. But his reasoning is his reasoning, albeit supported by the implementation of a logical fallacy.
See, I've come from a space where your actions speak louder than your words. I come from a space, maybe it's just the Detroit in me. Maybe it's just the Detroit in me where they say that what you say is 10% of the conversation and what you do is actually the other 90%. That what you do in the body language is more meaningful than what people say. Obama said a lot. He sold y'all hope. And then he sold you out.
It's a funny thing that he mentions Obama. And there's only one person that I can point to who actually can say that Obama sold them out personally. And that would be this man.
I happen to be aware through some extensive research that there may have been a point in time that he sought some of your counsel. He denounced you before the world, and that made you feel how?
There's always a bigger picture. When we look in the mirror of life and we only see ourselves, we're vain. And vanity means you live in yourself, for yourself, and when you die, who the hell cares? When I looked in the mirror, I always tried to see what is the bigger picture. Barack Obama was the bigger picture. If he did not denounce me under the prodding of Mrs. Clinton, yes, who's getting hers now, he would never have been president. because the powerful Jewish lobby, Zionist lobby in America would not have backed him had he not denounced me. So I kept my quiet and I told people around me, don't even address it. Get him where he wants to go. Get him where Black America wants him to go. Get him where young Americans, black, white, and brown, want to see him go.
So I'm in no position to universally define what being on code is. But if I was a betting man, I would bet that it would go something like that.